Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and it's Debsy, and place to be, it's Debsy. Boop, that's me. Boop, Debsy. Hey guys, and happy Sunday. I hope everybody is having a great weekend and is having a wonderful day as well. So listen, yesterday I watched, did I watch it yesterday or? Yeah, I watched it yesterday. I watched this documentary on Netflix. No, it's not a true crime. It is, listen, if you had told me years ago that I would be watching a documentary on this woman, I would say, nope, you're lying, because I don't like her. And that is Martha Stewart. So I watched the documentary Martha on Netflix because I've been hearing all kinds of buzz about it, all kinds of talk about it. So I thought, okay, let's watch it. Let's just watch it. Watched it. It was directed by RJ Cutler. And before I watched it, I had heard some rumblings about it that Martha Stewart was not happy with it. She wasn't happy with it for a number of things. Number one, she did not like near the end, he shows her walking, and she's walking gingerly, and she didn't like that was included because she looks older. She's in her 80s, so I mean, you're older, so, but she didn't like that was put in there. She also didn't like the fact that they spent a lot of time on her conviction, on her in prison, and she didn't like the fact that they used classical music throughout. She would have preferred rap. They did, however, use a Snoop Dogg song at the end, so that was nice. But I am going to give you some takeaways, just some of my opinions, some things that I heard in there that I thought were interesting. Now, I'm going to tell you, from beginning, I was not a fan of Martha Stewart. She seemed to me like everything that she made, she was trying to make it look like, oh, it's so simple. You can do this and you can do this. But I didn't know a lot of women that would go out and had the money to get the ingredients or have the time to build a composting shed and do all this stuff. So I was not a fan of hers, so I didn't follow her a lot. But some interesting things. Well, her father was an asshole, it seems like to me. Seems like he was very controlling. And when she met the man that she would eventually marry, he was like, no, you're not going to marry him because he's Jewish. And so there was that. She married him anyways. And that's, I think, where she got her work ethic, because he was a very hard worker from what it sounds like. And I also did not know that she was a stockbroker. She worked in the financial field. I didn't know that. Peppermint tea. I didn't know that because, like I said, I didn't pay a lot of attention to her because I wasn't a fan of hers. But I will give her this. She was the first self-made female billionaire in the US. That I did not know. And good for her. She built that on her own. Unlike some men, she didn't get money from her dad. She did it all on her own. So speaking of man she married, I cannot remember his first name, but obviously he was a Stewart because that's where she got her last name. But so they married, and they go on their honeymoon, and he's back at the hotel. She's off at this cathedral, and she's there by herself, a little waif of a woman, and she sees this attractive man there. And how about Martha kissing another man on her honeymoon? So we come to find out, listen, that husband of hers, he cheated on her quite a few times. He stepped out on her quite a few times. So she said, here's a quote for young women. If a man cheats on you, then he's the piece of shit, not you. Because a lot of times women will be like, well, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? Nothing's wrong with you, honey. I mean, he's a piece of garbage. So she's like, dump him. It's not your fault. It's his fault. You're welcome. And the interviewer was like, didn't you cheat? Didn't you cheat? Didn't you have an affair? So it turns out she did. She had an affair with some very attractive Irish man or Scottish man, something like that. And she was like, I did that. I only did that because, you know, he did that. And I think she said I only did that. And he doesn't know that I did that. They're like, he does know that you did that. It's like, oh, well, I didn't tell him. And so it was like her way of trying to shut him down. Like she was like, if he cheats, he's a piece of garbage. Didn't you cheat? Don't talk about that. This is my documentary. I'm Martha. We're not talking about that. Let's just stay on the fact that he's a piece of shit. Martha was really trying to get that shut down. So listen, her trial. Now, she was not brought up on charges of insider trading. She was brought up on charges by Jim Comey for lying to the feds. I always thought she was convicted of insider trading. No, it was for the feds. And honestly, I really feel like now, like they were really going at her extra hard just because she was maybe because she was a woman, or maybe because she was a very large name, like a very large name. So this would be a big career boost for him. That's what it seemed like to me. Like if we could get Martha Stewart, hey, that would fast track my career. So yeah, the charges were for lying to the feds and not for insider trading, because the guy who was like the main guy that they were going for had said, no, I didn't tell her anything. I didn't give her any tips, insider tips, so she could sell. So now listen, they get to the trial, and I'm going to tell you, didn't her supposed best friend gets up there and testifies against her? Oh, she was like, she gets up there and she says, yeah, we were on a boat and she told me all this information. And Martha Stewart was like, I didn't tell her any of that. They told her what to say and she said it. She's lying. But hold up a second. The real shade. So they're standing there. It's Judgment Day. They're coming back with the verdict, and it's guilty. So it's guilty. It's guilty on all counts. And didn't Martha say, and there was one woman, she wrote for the New York Times. She wrote terrible articles about me and wrote such garbage. She's dead now, which is good. She can't write that trash anymore. It turns out that woman is not dead. That woman sent her text message and was like, I am still alive, bitch. I'm going to tell you what. I think Martha Stewart knew that. I think Martha Stewart knew she was alive, and she just said that. She was throwing some serious ass shade. I was loving, you can't tell me the Martha Stewart, who knows everybody, everything about everybody, especially in like New York and in that area, come on. She has to know that woman's alive. She's like, she's dead. Good. Oh, couldn't. I had to laugh at that. She was a savage. So listen, I didn't know, once again, I thought that she was in prison for longer than 5 months. I really thought she was in there longer, but once again, I didn't pay a ton of attention to Martha Stewart because I wasn't a super big fan of hers. So she, from what I had heard before, like she did not want to go to the prison in West Virginia because it would be tougher for her mother, who was elderly, to make it there to visit her. So she was sentenced to prison, to a women's prison in West Virginia. And I really thought that, hey, it's going to be a camp cupcake, like they said. It's going to be easy. They're going to be doing hot yoga. They're going to be doing arts and crafts. Like when Teresa Giudice went to prison, and then she comes out and she couldn't call it prison. She had to call it camp rather than saying prison. But I'm sure they probably had like arts and crafts, yoga, things of that nature. But this wasn't that. She had to go through everything that you would have to go through. And I remember the one story that got me was like, she was walking outside the one day. She saw 2 women who were dressed nice. So she went up and said something like, "Good morning, it's a beautiful day," or something like that. And then accidentally just like her arm like brushed the other woman's arm or something like that. She was called into the office and was like, that you were talking to guards. Those women were guards. You're not supposed to touch them. She was in solitary confinement for like a day with no food, no water, no nothing. For that, I was like, oh shit. So she was getting like real, it seemed like she was getting real down. And then what had picked her up was a woman had asked her, I think she said a Muslim woman, maybe, had asked her to speak in front of everybody. And she liked that because she wanted to help these women better themselves, And so she taught like a little course on a little business course. And she ended up really bonding with these women. I mean, when she was let go, when she was released, that poncho that she had on, it was knitted by one of her fellow prison inmates. And she remained friends with some of the women. So listen, to me, it seems like it wasn't something that she was looking forward to doing, but to me, it seems like she grew a lot from that. Like it helped her, And if I remember correctly, I think she said something like the one thing that she regretted, or the one thing that was like the worst part of her life, was when she was divorced. So that prison sentence, it taught her something. I mean, it changed her a little bit. So so during that time that she was in, so she had already been divorced. During that time she was dating this guy, Charles Simoni, I think is how you say it. He worked for Microsoft, and he built like the first version of Microsoft Office. So he was a bigwig at Microsoft, and she had written to him while she was in prison, letters about how I miss you and this and that. I don't think he even wrote back to her. I don't think he did. He might have, but I don't think he did. So she gets out. He sends this plane. He sends a private jet to pick her up. Everything's okay. They've been dating for like 15 years. They go abroad. They travel abroad for vacation. I can't remember who they had met. It was either, what am I thinking, the King of Iceland or the Queen or the President? It was somebody big, and it was over there in a foreign country. So how about they're laying in bed, and he's just like, okay, so I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm marrying Lisa. And she's like, who the fuck is Lisa? She's like, excuse me, who's Lisa? Well, it's this woman that he had been dating. And meanwhile, he's like, yeah, me and Lisa are getting married. Her parents don't want me to have anything to do with you, so we're done. And that's it. Just like that. I was like, you mean you couldn't have told her before? You had to use her and then just let her go like that. And from what I understand, I think that Elisa, he's still married to her, and she's some royalty. She's some highfalutin royalty. I think to him, what mattered most was looks. You know, like, you got to remain elite. You got to, you got to have that look of, and because Martha was in prison, all of a sudden she's damaged goods for being in prison. How about that? I'm going to marry Lisa. Who? Okay, so this is another thing that got me. So she gets out of prison, and she couldn't be, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to try and tamper this down because I was mad when I heard this. So she got out of prison. She couldn't be the head of her corporation because she was convicted of a felon. Listen, I'm going to say that again. Martha Stewart, a woman, she couldn't be president of her corporation that she, on her own, that she herself built. Herself. She didn't take no money from her parents. She didn't take any money from any of them because her parents, she didn't grow up rich. Like, she grew up in New Jersey. Okay? Her dad worked, and I think her mom worked. She didn't grow up rich. Everything she got, she worked for. I was not a fan of her to begin with, but I'm going to tell you, she worked. There was no calling her lazy. So she gets out. She did 5 months in prison, and then she had 5 months prison, and then she had 5 months supervised house time or something like that. And she paid a huge fine, and there was something else. But listen, she did her time. She couldn't be the head of the CEO of the corporation she built on her own because she had a conviction. Let's fast forward to 2024. We got somebody that got 34 convictions, and they can run the country. How about that bullshit? I'm just saying. Listen, I'm just saying. She worked her ass off building that company. She got conviction. She got conviction for lying to the feds. And now she can't be the head of her own corporation she built up. But somebody else can run a damn country? That don't make no sense. That makes no sense at all. Listen, I also liked two of her mottos. I like these a lot. Learn something new every day, which is fabulous, which is such great advice. If you learn one new thing every day, you're bettering yourself. You are bettering yourself in some way. And the second piece of advice, the second motto was, when you're through changing, you're through. She said, change that garden if you don't like it. And that came in handy for her because when she got out, she immediately did like a Martha Talk show with Mark Burnett, the guy who does what is it? Mark Burnett. He does Survivor. He produces Survivor. And that just wasn't her cup of tea. That wasn't her. And then things were looking a little better, and then they started tanking. And then in 2015, she ended up on the Comedy Central roast of Justin Bieber, because Justin Bieber was going through some real difficult times. And I'm telling you what, they had Kevin Hart, they had Snoop Dogg. That's where she got to be good friends with Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg, Kevin Hart, Pete Davidson, all these all these comedians and people that do this for like a living. And then here's Martha Stewart, this old white woman up on the stage. And people were probably like, what's she gonna do? I'm gonna tell you what, she was the star of that damn roast. She gets up there, she took everything that people were saying about her. She was funny. She got up there and she was roasting Martha Stewart. She was roasting Justin Bieber, talking about how in prison, when she said some bitch needed to get got. Talking about how she made a shiv. She was funny. What she said, I don't know who that woman was, but she was like, she said something like, I do a lot of gardening. I work in my garden a lot, but I have never seen a dirty used hoe like you. Oh my God. She was funny, and she was back like, all over the place. People were like, she killed it. She was the funniest person on the Comedy Central roast. So her and Snoop Dogg started a show and they started hanging around. And now she's totally back. Like she had said before, after she got out of prison, I cannot be killed, or not. She didn't say I cannot be killed, but mainly like, you can't get rid of me. Like, I'm not going down. I'm not going down like this. And everybody thought she was down, but man, I'm going to tell you what, she wasn't out. She reinvented herself, and now like a whole new generation is liking her. I'm going to say there were people who did say that she's not a friendly person. And there was one scene where she was talking to these people, because I think like these people that work for her, and I think it was like a month before she was going to go away. She had people over to the house for Easter, and she was talking to her staff. It wasn't the nicest tone. Like I didn't like it. And I can see where that's not great. However, she mentioned another story about like where she was critiquing this, like, I guess somebody had made a teacup, and that she just told the guy, well, for the teacup, you have to make sure that you can fit like your fingers on the holder. And the guy was like, I've never been talked to like that. Well, I mean, that's the obvious. You have to have a teacup that you can hold. But I think honestly, sometimes she probably could have maybe softened it a little bit. But if a man in business, if a woman is determined in business, or she is a little pushy in business, then she's a bitch. But if a man does it, then he's just ambitious. Like, that's what you got to do to be successful. I don't know. I'm going to say, to be honest with you, I'm not going to say I love Martha Stewart, but I came out of that documentary not hating her. Like, I'm not going to say I love her. I really do enjoy her with Snoop Dogg. But I don't know. I wish that documentary would have been a little longer. It was an hour and a half. It's on Netflix. I wish it would have been a little longer so you could get to know more about her, because she was pretty interesting. I mean, she was pretty interesting. I like that she is just at a kind of like a, I don't really give a shit stage. That's a stage that I kind of like aspire to be at sometimes. But listen, I would recommend to watch it. I thought thought it was very interesting to hear all about her life. I don't know. And that's coming from me, a person who really I did not like Martha Stewart, like at all. So yeah, it's on Netflix. It's an hour and a half long. I would say to watch it. So let me know in the comments if you watched it, if you ever would watch it. And listen, if nobody told you yet today, I was going to say it's a good thing. If nobody told you yet today you are loved, seen, and heard, please make sure that you put love, kindness, compassion, acceptance, hope, and positivity out there in the world so it comes right back at you. Please take care of one another. Please be aware of your surroundings. Please, with the way that the world is today, be aware of your surroundings wherever you are. And also be safe. Hydrate often with water. And if you're in a situation that is dangerous, be it weather related or otherwise, please be mindful, be aware, be smart and safe. Know that Dolly and I are sending our love and our support and our prayers, thoughts, and all that positive energy that you need to make it through. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.